Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Walking with J.Beau. An almost daily walking vlog. It's also a MAHA blog. Make America Healthy Again. Been seeing a lot of activity online with people deciding to cook their own food, stop eating the processed garbage. People are learning about processed foods. And how it increases how much calories you retain. There's more calories in it than normal food, which is why people are fatter today than they used to be. Now you see all the time film footage from the 60s, 70s, and even the 80s where people are not obese. You see some once in a while. A lot of those would be, maybe genetics, a glandular issue, because everybody is different, and there were people that had issues like that. But for the most part, people were healthier. And I have noticed that being on these walks that I go on, that there have been many young people I see now are not obese. So young people apparently have gotten the message and they're eating better. So I have noticed that. And I've noticed a lot less obese people since 2020 when we had COVID. So it makes me wonder if we lost those people. But it's still a big problem. Now I'm not sure what applies to all demographics. But I do know, and because when I heard it, I didn't believe it. I had to go find out. But 4 out of 5, I'll say that again, 4 out of 5 black women in America are obese. 4 out of 5. And that's true. That's from the American Medical Association. And that's really terrible. It's not good. And a lot of, I'm not going to be politically correct on this vlog. And it's not racist to say it, so I got to put that disclaimer out there. But it's a simple fact. Primarily in the inner cities, you have black people, and they are poor. Poor people eat processed foods because it's cheaper to buy. So we got to get rid of processed foods, and we got to do more things like Senator Scott, a black guy from South Carolina, really awesome dude, I like him a lot, did opportunity zones with President Trump. And Scott went to President Trump with this and said, this would be really beneficial for black neighborhoods, because it would give them incentive financially, with some help, to invest in black businesses. It's been very successful. So there's black businesses opening up in black neighborhoods instead of, and part of the problem was caused by a lot of black people getting upset that it seemed like every store corner there was a liquor store or something, and there was a whole bunch of issues associated with that. I don't know all the details, and they were right. You know, all of these people were coming down there and take advantage of what's going on in black communities, and you'd have to be completely blind and or willfully ignorant to not acknowledge that black people in inner cities are taken advantage of. That's why drug dealers go there. That's why there's crime. That's why there's gangs. It's all about drugs and money. Drugs and money. And there's been such a decline in the African American family household with regard to fatherless children and lack of morality, lack of religion. And I will tell you though, at the same time, where you have poverty and despair, you will see an increase in the amount of people that are religious. Black people are very religious. The quote-unquote good ones, if you were going to be one that would say that. And a perfect example was the Toronto kind of a Jesus parade in Toronto this past weekend. I watched it. It seemed to me about 70% of the people marching in the parade were black in Canada. White people have fallen from grace, apparently. And it's terrible. And that explains a lot of what's going on in Canada with all this stupid neo-Marxist stupidity destroying Canada. So Canada is being destroyed from within, just like the United States was. You know, it's like Trump said today, you know, this neo-Marxist garbage. He said it's like a weed. You pluck the weed and then it comes back. You know, it's something you constantly have to stay on. And that was a good way that he put it, because it's true. Until you get the roots, the weed is going to keep coming back. So, as great as it's been with President Trump defunding transitioning children, removing indoctrinations in schools, you know, President Trump understands that the likelihood of a Democrat president being in power again and reversing what Trump has done, like Biden did the last time and ruined the country, is very slim, because President Trump this time has focused on institutional changes done constitutionally. So if you decimate the IRS, it's going to take them a while to build it back again. If you fundamentally revamp the entire FBI to be fair and unbalanced and non-political, as well as the DOJ, it's going to be very difficult for them to reinstitute the policies they had before and personnel. So they're taking a different approach this time. So still going to be interesting to see what they do. But you know, there's a lot of things that just had to be done. And yes, Trump defunding universities with an executive order can be reversed. So they can go right back to transitioning kids later. Right back to using government money to pay for it. So it's very important to get legislation passed. Now, the Republicans tried to pass, they passed it in Congress, in the House, to ban trans women playing in women's sports, which is men playing in women's sports. And the Democrats in the Senate would not vote for it. They needed 60 votes. That is not going to play well for them for midterms next year. And Republicans are going to win midterms next year in the Senate. And I believe the Republicans are going to win the House as well, for some of the same reasons. The Democrats are defending crime. They're defending everything that voters want to get rid of, just because Trump is doing it. So it's really quite sad to see how ridiculous the Democrats have become. But if the Democrats win next year, it's not going to be because of Democrats. It's going to be because Republicans didn't go vote. Republicans have to vote. You have to get out and vote. You have to tell your friends to get out and vote. You have to take it seriously. I realize it's 2025, but the election is next year. Perfect example, in Maine, we're going to have voter ID on the ballot. I think enough Democrats want voter ID, according to polling. It's about 70%. It's a 70-30 issue. But what happens if Democrats, who are very eager to go vote right now, vote against it just because it's something Trump wants, and Republicans stay home and don't vote because it's an off year, and it ends up not passing? And then we have people from New York living here who are illegals with driver's licenses registering to vote. There have been non-citizens that have voted in Maine. That's been revealed. Not in tremendously huge numbers, but one vote is too many. So anyway, turn the camera around, make sure I'm recording. There we are, finally came on. I was like, oh no, it's not recording. I've been talking into the abyss, and nobody will hear me. But here I am. I have the LCD screen on the front turned off, so the batteries will last longer. So anyways, my friends, 70 degrees today, very low humidity, it's dry, comfortable, it's like air conditioning outdoors. So that reminds me of the next topic. It was one I talked about yesterday, but I didn't have all the details on it, so I went and got some. I told you about how that pretty blonde girl on a train got stabbed in the neck by a big burly black guy sitting behind her, who had been arrested probably a couple dozen times from what I saw for various things, like attacking people for no reason. Cashless bail, they keep letting them go back out. So they don't do anything about it, is what that amounts to. Guy doesn't go to jail for more than whatever, and they let him out, like, you know, because he's black, I guess. Charlotte, North Carolina. Got a liberal AG, district attorney, I mean a DA. I haven't checked yet, but probably, my opinion, Soros funded. I haven't verified that, but that's usually the case. These people won't prosecute minorities. If you're white, you're gone forever. Okay? So, the media will say that doesn't happen. Well, we know it does. We see it. So, anyway, she's dead. I watched the film footage of it, uncensored. It's not good. He sits right behind her after he comes in. All right, that's the important thing also. I'll talk about in a minute. He sits down right behind her. He watches her. She's got her face in her phone. Probably social media, checking emails, whatever, texting. He looks out the window to the left, then he licks his lips, like that. He takes out a knife, unfolds it, and then he stands up and he just, emotionless, gutless, cowardly, attacks a small woman, half his body weight or less, with a knife from behind while she's not looking. Casually folds the knife and walks away, waits for the train door to open, and steps out, and he's dripping blood, her blood, while he's walking out. And you see people noticing the blood on the subway. She had gotten up to get help and was bleeding all over the place. And nobody was helping her. That's the other problem. The entire thing absolutely disgusted me. So they arrested this guy. He's going to be charged with murder, finally, when he should have been in jail already for other things he's done, like assault. So, anyway, that's what we saw with that. Hi, how are you? So, I always make sure to say hi to people when I'm wearing a MAGA hat. Let them know we're friendly if they don't like MAGA people, because they hear about things on the internet. So, anyways, horrible tragedy. I told you about the one in Philadelphia also, when that guy shot that woman on the corner. Starting to look like he took the gun away from one of the women who pulled a gun on him because he was beating that girl. And he took the gun away from her and shot the girl he was beating. And then he fired another shot. I don't know where that went. I don't know if he shot this woman twice or just once and shot and missed. I don't know. But he's just standing around in the video I saw afterwards. And I heard he was detained. I found out that he started running, walking fast away from the scene, and some police officers up ahead saw him and they arrested him. I guess they jumped on him, tackled him or something. Anyway, He's going to get charged with murder as well. But they still had some questions about how he got the gun from that other girl, that other girl's relationship to them too, and if he's going to try to say that he was just defending himself from somebody that pulled a gun on him. Judging by what I saw, this guy was beating the crap out of a woman, but does that warrant pulling a gun on him? The woman getting beaten legally would be able to use a gun to defend herself and shoot this guy. But a bystander pulling a gun on him, she went right up to him with it, which is a stupid thing to do. You know, if you get a gun and somebody's doing something, you don't need to go right up close to somebody. It's not a knife, okay? Bullets travel far, okay? They travel far. You're good for at least 40 yards with a pistol, all right? Further than that, 40 yards is a long way. 120 feet, okay? So you don't need to get right up close to somebody. Stop what you're doing. They're gonna reach out and grab your gun. So there's a lot of people throughout history who have been killed with their own firearm because that's what they did. Don't do that. You don't have to do that. It's a gun, okay? The bullet travels far. That's part of the reason why it's so successful. You don't have to get personal like with a knife. So anyway, I didn't see this guy have any other kind of weapon like a knife or anything like that. So she made mistakes. She pulled the gun out to stop this guy. He took the gun and it ended up getting that girl killed that was getting beaten. So tragic. Now the woman on the subway in Charlotte that got stabbed and bled to death, she did a lot of things wrong. One, now that I've seen the video, she came in the subway car and she picked a seat and she sat in it and immediately opened her phone and was texting, doing something. Number two, because she was doing that, she didn't notice this guy come in, walk right by her and sit behind her. Number three, it was August in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not cold. This guy had a hoodie and he had the hoodie up, okay? That's a red flag. It's hot and humid and the guy's wearing a hoodie, okay, to hide his face, basically. So he's probably gonna do something bad. That's a red flag. If she had been paying attention and not on her phone, she might have sensed something, gotten up and moved to another seat, which is not a crime. But they instill white guilt on people, and even then she probably wouldn't get up to move to another seat because the guy was black and he might think it was rude and racist. So that's the mistakes that she made. You gotta have situational awareness in public. Get off your damn phones. Even while I'm walking, talking to you now, I'm on a back road in the middle of nowhere. I'm paying attention to cars because I'm wearing a MAGA hat. Some radical, angry leftist. Oh, we're on a road in the middle of nowhere. I could probably run this guy over because he's got a MAGA hat and he's a racist and the world would thank me for it. So use your peripheral vision. Use your senses. Your hearing is a valuable tool. This woman was so absorbed in her phone that even if he had taken out a gun and racked the slide, she probably would have went, nah, and went back to her phone. So the other tragedy is this woman was Ukrainian. She was a Ukraine, okay, refugee, here because of the Ukraine war. So travels all this way so she won't be killed in Ukraine, just to be killed on a subway train by a scumbag that should have been locked up by a district attorney with the same politics that screams about, I'll bet you they all have the Ukraine flag in their social media profiles. The ones defending this black guy. Somebody set up a GoFundMe for this black guy. So liberal idiots would donate to his legal defense, and there was so much backlash from that, I heard that GoFundMe took it down. Because their policy is supposed to be that you can't raise money for a legal defense if you've committed a hate crime. That was their argument for leaving the one up for the black 17 or 18-year-old charged as an adult for stabbing that football player that was white, remember? It turns out it didn't have anything to do with race, so I agree with that. But they did raise a lot of money for somebody that murdered somebody. And yes, you are innocent until proven guilty. But this black guy had been in trouble for assaults, random attacks. It's the same kind of thing New York saw with people pushing people off the subway platform in front of trains, mentally ill. So here, we'll get a pumpkin patch. Look at that. I'm going to have the great pumpkin rising out of the pumpkin patch on Halloween. I'm going to go across the street, see if we can see any turkeys today. Which I'm sure there will be. There's people getting propane delivered. Where are the gobblers? Do we have any gobblers out here today? Let's walk down here and see if we see any turkeys. Let's put you up on a pole. Walk under the apple tree. Nope. I don't see the turkeys. They did come through here and cut some grass though, it looks like. Alrighty. Let's head up this way. street. So we always have cars coming towards us. And I can see here, it looks like a street sweeper has gone by here. So that looks like. Sort of, unless that's just water, rain runoff. But that looks like when the street cleaner goes by and sweeps up. We got a beautiful day today, early fall. The apples are ripening up and falling off the tree. This is a route we're walking today that's going to look pretty this fall. I will have the 360 camera with me for fall foliage. Pretty much everywhere I go, if it's not raining out. So President Trump was speaking today. It was a gathering of religious leaders and some small children gave speeches today, which was interesting, talking about how their schools hassled them for being Christian or Catholic or both, which Catholics are Christians. I am a Catholic. Joe Biden didn't do anything about it and claimed to be a Catholic, and then locked up old ladies who were protesting abortion outside a clinic, charged under a little used law protesting outside of a medical clinic that is federally funded, and they gave these old ladies a maximum 30 to 40 years in prison for protesting outside of an abortion clinic funded by the government. Their sentences were commuted, pardoned or commutation. I'm not sure which. There's a difference. Pardoned means it's expunged from your record. Commuted means you can get out of jail, but it's still on your record. 60 and 70-year-old old ladies given 30 to 40 years. Life sentence. Excessive. Whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down. There's no need to drive that fast. And he's got a taillight out. That guy was doing about 80 miles an hour. A young person, stupid. People own dogs here. They're walking on the road all the time. What a moron. You know, mood I've been lately, it's like turn around, come back and say something. You know, please. Can't be shy and quiet about that stuff, folks. There's no need to be driving like that on this road. Speed limit on this road's 35, not 80. It's criminal speeding. Driving a crap box of a car, not made to handle that anyway. You have mail trucks parked off to the side with their hazard lights on, delivering mail. And I've seen so many kids out here, 12, 13 years old, walking their dogs. That's just stupid. Just dumb. In fact, if you're one of those people that do that and you're watching this video, just unfollow me and don't come back. Or at least tell me who you are so I can hide you from my channel. Stupid. Anyway, we had that religious gathering today, and these kids were telling their stories. This one little boy was chastised by the teacher in front of the class as being a bigot when he refused to read a book in class promoting gender ideology and how people can change their genders. He was supposed to read a paragraph from the book to another student in class as part of this indoctrination narrative that they have to brainwash children. Now this kid is a Christian and goes against his values. He prays, he reads from the Bible, and he told the teacher he was not going to do that. It was wrong. And that teacher made an example of him. The principal of the school made an example of him as well. The other students in the school were ganging up on him and bullying him, mentally and physically. So that's when the Christian rights people got involved, threatened a lawsuit. The Trump administration got involved also. And this kid said after that, he was treated just fine. So I guess the school doesn't do that anymore. Teachers were reprimanded, all because this kid stood his ground and said something. That's the key word. He stood his ground and said something and didn't let them get away with chastising him for his religious beliefs in a country where you're supposed to have freedom and liberty, and more importantly, freedom of religion. So good on him for that. The other story was a young girl, similar story. And she said things changed when people got involved because she stood up and made noise. That stuff is illegal in America. The far left is afraid of religion. They're afraid of Jesus. But these are the same people who will defend Muslims in public calls to prayers and things like that, and Sharia law. And when somebody goes into a store telling them that they shouldn't sell alcohol and pork because Allah forbids it, and these liberals get right behind these people and support them. It's called virtue signaling. I think that's all the left is just virtue signaling. They virtue signal for Ukraine. I don't think they really care about Ukrainians, because I think Ukraine is literally 97% white. So They get right behind that, though, because the entire left went in support of Ukraine. So now it's, quote, the latest thing. And they're just virtue signaling. So they must be torn with that Ukraine refugee who was stabbed to death on the train by a person of color with mental issues that the Democrats support. So they're torn. Do we hate this girl because she's white? But she's Ukrainian. She's Ukrainian. She's a refugee that came here because of this war that we have a flag in our social media bios supporting. So these people, they're all fake. They're all frauds. Phony. They just get behind the latest thing. Now they're defending crime in big cities. They're defending everything that the right is against, which includes God and religion. That's equated to being a white nationalist. But the simple fact is, there's a huge Christian, black Christian population in this country that don't support that. And that's why they've turned their backs on the Democratic Party. So the Democrats use all of this virtue signaling to get support for their policies, which are corrupt and wrong and neo-Marxist, as I call them. A lot of people just call them Marxist, but if you look up Marxism, it actually has to do with being anti-capitalist, which they are. But what they do is far more reaching than that. So there's a little more nuances to it. So they haven't read Karl Marx and they don't support Karl Marx, but they support his policies. So that's why it's called neo-Marxism, like you would say a neo-Nazi. It's not somebody that's actually a German Nazi that worships Hitler, but neo-Nazi, you know what that is. So it's the same thing. So we need to call things what they really are. But anyway, they are anti-Christian. They have made that very clear. So it's the same thing with Palestine and Jews, Israel, Muslims, and doing the same thing. So they're just supporting Palestine because it's the latest thing they were told to virtue signal for. They didn't mourn the dead, burned, beheaded babies in Israel that were killed in a terrorist attack. They're upset at the retaliation. And I got news for you. Hamas is about to be wiped off the earth forever. Because that's what you have to do. It's radical Islam. Not Islam, not Muslim. If you had a whole bunch of Christians preaching violence, killing abortion doctors, which some have, some radicalized Christians have, that is just as evil. It's not who we are. So you're going to condemn it no matter what, and for what reason. So anyways, with that being said, I'm getting our miles in today, walking at a pretty good pace, and you know, we are where we are right now in history, and very important that we pay attention to what's going on. And you need to pay attention to what's going on when you are out in public. Absolute must. An absolute must, my friends. There's too many things going on in the world today that can affect all of us. and watching all these people. You can always spot them online. They have an orange square, which means on social media, anti-gun. They have a Ukraine flag. Oftentimes they'll have a Palestine flag. So they cannot distinguish the difference between Hamas and Palestinians. Terrorists and people subjugated by terrorist groups, radical Muslim organizations. So they cannot tell the difference, just like they can't tell the difference between an immigrant and an illegal alien. So, or a Republican and a white racist. They can't tell the difference between anything. They do what they're told. There's no reaching these people. It is like Trump said today, and it's true. This has been implanted into their brain as part of who they are and their psyche. They honestly believe they're doing something right when they clearly are not. So you can't deprogram these people. And I've said this on the walks many times. You got to throw these people on the trash heap of history and move on. They're going to lose by default, especially in America. Europe is waking up. The women in Europe are absolutely furious at this transgender ideology. People are online talking about it, and they're being arrested. Britain is arresting 30 people a day for Facebook posts. Facebook posts. 30 a day. So anyway, I had to make a pit stop. I'm sure you can guess why. So they're arresting 30 a day. And you know, this is why the left is losing to populism globally. It's not just, you know, now it's Britain's turn. It's Britain's turn now. Germany will be next. France had a populist movement where supposedly Macron won by a pretty hefty margin. I don't trust that for 2 seconds. I think there was some shenanigans there. French people are not happy with all the migrants. It's coming to a head in Britain because women are being raped. The numbers of rapes have increased in Britain by 86% or something like that. And it's from migrants. Now, I know that's a stereotype. Somebody's going to say I'm being racist, but that's the numbers. That's the numbers. They brought in thousands of people that their culture allows it. And I've seen documentaries on it and interviews with these people. And they have said right on camera, I've seen it from myself, okay? It's not AI, it wasn't doctored, where they said that if they see a woman they want, they just take her because they are a man, they are allowed to do that. And it's wrapped up in the religious stuff. Women are just here as breeders to make children. That's what these guys said. They were from Africa. So I'm not even sure they were Muslim. They were just African men, and that's just, they were brought up. You just take it. That was part of the reason why they had the big HIV epidemic in Africa, because they won't wear condoms and they take what they want. They just rape people. So now I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying, you know, and that's the problem with virtue signaling. You have to be careful everything you say or you'll get canceled. And that's what caused this problem. But anyway, thankfully, liberals are losing. They are. And, you know, people need to understand that people like me, on the right, conservative, we're not the racists. We're realists. You know, if you legitimately had 80% of white people committing violent crimes against minorities, I would call it out. or 60%, or whatever it is. So the left likes to deceive you. They like to use things out of context. Perfect example. Trump was speaking today at that religious Christian thing, and he made a comment about how the media will come up with crime statistics to discredit the amount of violent crime in the city. So crime numbers have gone down, okay? That truck wasn't propane, that was a septic service. Cleaning out somebody's outhouse. Yes, a lot of people in Maine still have outhouses, my friends. So anyway, President Trump clearly stated in his speech today that he said crime was non-existent in Washington, D.C. And he goes, when I say that, the media will do something like they will add on domestic disputes or domestic arguments, where he said a guy and a wife will have an argument in the home. He said they'll start tacking on stuff that happens in the home as crime to discredit what they're doing in DC. So now the narrative today on social media from the liberals who hate Trump excuses smacking a woman around as not being a crime. That's how they tried to spin his comment today from that. These people are just unbelievable. That is not what he said. That was in the context of using smaller crimes, like, you know, basically he's saying if you're going to somebody's house for loud music, they're going to tack that on as a crime stat. Somebody was breaking a sound ordinance. That's what he was saying. He mentioned nothing about smacking around a wife or domestic violence. He didn't use the word domestic violence. He didn't say that a guy smacking his wife around. That was all made up by propagandists. Just like they tried to say, J.D. Vance, when he said, I don't give a shit what you call it, about somebody saying it's a war crime, telling them they don't give a shit what they call it is not admitting that it's a war crime. I don't even know how they equated the two together. J.D. Vance was not defending it as a war crime. He was clearly stated in the context, okay? The context, very important in a conversation. The context of the conversation was whether the United States had authority to do it. They tried to say it was a war crime, and he just simply said, I don't, quote unquote, I don't give a shit what you call it. That is a direct quote, word for word. So these people are still doing everything that's not effective for them. The American public has seen through that because the media does that. They take things out of context. So lately, because they've been doing that, they've been getting sued. People are fighting back because these networks are losing their lawsuits because they're lying. They're being deceptive. It's defamation. You can't say things like, let's say there's an intern in the White House claims Trump raped her, okay? You can't come on TV and say, a woman in the White House came out and claimed President Trump raped her in the Oval Office. Okay, that part of the statement would be true. But then they have to tack on, because we know he's been convicted of rape before, referring to E. Jean Carroll. It says right in the court documents, he was not charged with rape. He was not accused of rape. He was not convicted of rape. The left likes to say he was convicted of rape because he was found guilty in a civil lawsuit of groping a woman in a changing room 30 plus years ago, where she doesn't remember what the date was, doesn't remember anything. And she's been on TV many times fantasizing about being raped. So that was a railroad trial, okay? He was railroaded. It's my opinion, okay? I'm not spreading misinformation. That's my legal disclaimer. I am giving an opinion. It could be untrue. All right, now that we've said that, these people are just unbelievable. It's not working for them. They came out with all of this propaganda against Trump over the Washington, D.C. thing. Entire weekends of news cycles, hours and hours and hours of anti-Trump media coverage saying he's a fascist, a dictator, an authoritarian, and all around not a nice guy, for forcing the citizens of Washington, D.C. under threat of National Guard military with their long guns and rifles and scaring the kids. The new poll that just came out, Trump's at 55%. Highest he has polled yet. Because he's actually doing something about crime, which was in the top three items during the election. That was in the top three. Economy, the border with immigration, and crime. Democrats are soft on crime, so the answer for Democrats who are soft on crime and it cost them the election is to go against Trump, who's trying to do something about crime. And it's not working out for them very well. It's like, I wonder why. Geez, President Trump comes out and actually does what he says he's going to do if you voted for him. He said he was going to do that. He said he would use the National Guard and they would restore order in these cities. So there's no surprises to me. I watched his rallies. I listened to what he had to say. He's doing everything he said he would. So these people are absolutely amazing to be this lost in space. So they're going to keep losing. The populists are losing. That's the good news. Now, I was talking about Britain for a reason, because Nigel Farage started his own party in 2018, was laughed at by the establishment. You're never going to be anything. This is a waste of time. You're a racist. You're just copying Trump. And Nigel Farage is a conservative in Britain who echoes a lot of what Trump has been saying about migrants and problems in Britain. He has not been afraid to say it. The media goes after him, tries to end him, ruin him. As we look at this repair, they came back and redid the hole they filled properly. So obviously they dug this up, and it was, like I said, it was a big sinkhole waiting to happen. So they must have filled it in, it looks like. So very happy about that. That was pretty bad. All you saw was a little opening at the top, but you looked inside it and you could see 3-4 feet down there had been washed out by rain. That was just an accident, disaster waiting to happen. So I'm glad they fixed it. Anyway, Nigel Farage started a conservative party. Now, the Conservative Party in the UK, and you know, forgive me, I don't know the name of the British parties. I really don't care. I don't live in Britain. I'm watching it from the eyes of, you know, Britain has been censoring people, so now I'm watching Britain because they're doing things that are very bad, very wrong, very fascistic, authoritarianism stuff, that if Trump did that, there would be marches on the Capitol, protests, calls for impeachment, and I would probably be with them protesting Trump. That's how bad that is. So, Nigel Farage, 2 articles I read today from British websites that absolutely hate Trump and Nigel Farage, have finally admitted that it looks like Nigel Farage, as it is right now, according to their polling, is poised to take a majority in Parliament. That would mean that the Liberals would not have the authority to pass whatever the hell they want, like they had been. The leftists, who like to call themselves progressives, you know, because progress, you know, it sounds positive. It's progress. We're promoting equality. Oh, you know, you don't want to go along with it? Well, you're fired. Get out of here, jerk, bigot, racist. So, Nigel Farage, who led the Brexit, okay, British exit from the EU movement, which a lot of people criticized and said it would be the end of Britain if they did that financially. They would collapse. Well, that hasn't happened. The economy is not doing great because leftists are running things. So Nigel Farage is capitalizing on that and immigration. And he's winning support. They said if the election was held today, his party would win easily over the 2 established party, the Liberal Party and the Labour Party, I believe, which the Labour Party, I believe, are what you would call rhinos. They're fake conservatives. The real conservatives are with Nigel Farage's party, the Reform Party, it's called. Their whole party, it's a reform party. It's Make Britain Great Again. And he actually says that. So, populism, friends, democracy, that's democratic. If you on the left's ideas are so great, you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to lock up your citizens. And that's why they're locking up their citizens. Not because the left is coddling migrants and being loving and caring progressives. They're doing it because white Britain is leaving their parties to join Nigel Farage. So they think locking people up will get them to stop talking about the migrant crisis in the UK. Women are getting angry. People they voted for are allowing them to be raped and nothing gets done about it. The media doesn't cover it. The media is notorious for that. We just saw that in, that's a steep hill. I just walked up it, walking fast. So, anyway, the media here is not covering that white girl that was stabbed on the subway because Trump's tirade against crime in big cities. So now the media is going to try their best to show that there is no crime happening, okay? Trump chastised a reporter yesterday. He told them 20-something people got shot in Chicago, and 7 were killed. This weekend, he said. He goes, your network didn't mention a word about it. Because you're trying to, he said, because you're trying to cover up crime in big cities. Because we're doing something about it. And he said, your network is a joke. And she kept talking. He said, quiet, quiet. I don't want any more questions from you. You're, you know, basically telling her you're a liar. So, you know, the media is so bad. Thankfully, there's a lot of people not watching them anymore because they've figured it out. Every time they do that. You got social media. Millions of people are using social media. They can see the video of this blonde girl getting stabbed on a train. And the media is not talking about it. Even the dumbest person can make that connection and say, geez, Trump is cleaning up crime, and the networks who always talk bad about Trump aren't covering this. So anyway, everywhere it goes, populism wins. The only way it goes away is when elections are rigged. And I will maintain the election in Brazil with Bolsonaro. They have a true authoritarian dictatorship going on there right now. And they're trying to lock up Bolsonaro and his family members. Which leads me back to Britain. One of these days, we're going to put the news on, and we're going to see that Nigel Farage has been charged with a crime. That's going to be their last resort. He's going to have to defend himself in court. He's going to win, and it's going to win more voters over, because these people are stupid. And if they martyr him by actually locking him up, that's even better. These people don't understand that that is fascism, authoritarianism. That's what dictators do. You censor your citizens and you lock up your political opponents. That's what the Biden administration did here, if you're watching from Britain. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you're watching from Britain, stand up and don't take it. If you end up going to court to defend something you said online, then do that. I don't know what your legal system is there. I don't know what that entails. But, you know, I know what right from wrong is. And every government in the world that has done this to their people has always been on the wrong side of history. Going all the way back to Romans killing Christians because Jesus was gaining more popularity. It became a threat to the king on the throne because he was raising questions about what the Roman Empire was doing. So this goes way back. Any society in history. It could be the Mongols in China. They ended up turning communist. The Japanese were very strict. That whole system fell apart. Of course, we had Germany with Hitler. We had Stalin in Russia. All of these places that have done that have failed. Czechoslovakia is now the Czech Republic, and Slovakia. They fell apart too. Everything just fell apart. Because you cannot oppress the people and expect them to just be obedient and shut up and take it. It's human nature to want liberty and freedom. It's ingrained in our DNA, no matter what country you're in. So, even the Chinese. These Chinese people know that they're oppressed. And China's so far gone, I don't think they'll ever come back. So they might have just gone into this passive acceptance thing. This is the life I have. I can't do anything about it. This is going to be my existence, so I might as well make the best of it. Which helps the government. China spends a lot of money on technology to keep their people oppressed. So if that ever were to be cracked, like some outside Western nation hacked the Chinese systems and made it all crash, that would be something. That would be something. So anyway, you see, beautiful day today. It is still a warm sun on your face feeling. 70 degrees today. Sun's going to get lower in the sky, and about 8 to 10 weeks from now, it's going to be dark right now at this time in Maine. It'll be dark at 4 p.m. and it'll be cold. So I'll extend this pole up as high as it goes to get some camera shots above the bushes, hopefully. I don't think I'll get over those ones way up at the top. I don't think I've ever walked up here. You guys want to take a walk up here with me, just for the heck of it? Well, let's take a walk up this way. I've never once walked up here just to see what's over this ridge. Maybe something really cool. Maybe a lot of nothing. Let's go take a look-see. Right now we're moving away from Canada. Keep following these power lines, we'll end up in Massachusetts, I believe. That's where these go, through New Hampshire. They distribute power. Yep, this just goes way down that way. Very nice day today. Right now I'm getting sweat dripping on my ear from under my hat. So it's definitely warm enough today to head back this way. It's definitely warm enough today to get a good sweat going. Pretty much every day from now and at least the next 2 weeks, it's going to be 70 to 72 degrees for a high temperature, around 50 at night, give or take, a couple of 48s. I'm gonna have to change the battery. That's at about 12%. See, they trimmed the side here, so now I can walk up here. They went along with their mowy thing, and they mowered it. just had a thorny branch almost tripped me. Grabbed right onto my pants and I had to pull it free while I was walking. If I had been running, I would have just wiped out. Which is one of the drawbacks of running, I think. I'm going to take this moment right now to change the battery. Alright, fresh battery in here. Get off the road. Rock and roll ain't noise pollution. Rock and roll ain't gonna die. Alright. Well, guys, thanks for walking with me today. I'm going to walk on a little more up ahead here. And I want to remind you that this country was very close to falling off the cliff forever. 4 years of Kamala Harris would have finished us off. Republicans might have been so dejected that they wouldn't go vote after that and should be reelected. It's kind of what happened here in Maine with Janet Mills, unfortunately. So, this lady up here is a MAGA. She had a MAGA Trump flag for the entire election cycle. Out here whacking our weeds. Alright, I'll be coming up on 5 miles shortly. Some nice looking trees up this way when there's fall foliage. Bug stuck to my forehead. It landed on my forehead and my forehead's all wet, so it's stuck. All right, his garden doing well here. Looks like he plucked a lot of his tomatoes. You see way in the distance, way in the mountains out there. A lot of nice scenery around here, I have to admit. This tree right here is gorgeous when it changes. And there was another tree up ahead here and they chopped it down, cut it down on me. That's a stump right there. That was a nice looking tree. So they might have cut that down for safety reasons because it's too close to the house. A couple of years ago, people learned their lesson with trees falling. It was a pretty tree. It was a big maple. At least I got pictures of it when it was changing and looked all pretty. I'm going to cross the street over here because we usually don't walk on this side. But this is where my state representative lives, Mr. LaJoie, who sounds very polite when you talk to him, but then you ask him tough questions and he won't answer them. And you ask nicely. You got to keep in touch with your local representatives. So this is our state representative here who voted for the gun banning stuff. He voted against the trans stuff. He's a Democrat. So he votes for the gun ban stuff, and his answer that he gives me is always the same. Well, I'll vote for it, and then the courts can decide if it's legal or not and constitutional. That's pathetic. That's a pathetic answer. He can't say if it's right or wrong. He just says, well, I'm going to vote for it, and if it's wrong, it'll be overturned by the courts. What a stupid way to do things. And that guy used to be the fire chief. So we'll walk up this way. What's that?
Is that a GoPro?
Yes, it is.
Is it recording?
Yes, it is.
I like your hat.
Thank you. I like yours too.
Thank you. Can I say hi?
Hi.
What's up, chat? Wait, what's the YouTube channel?
Megatrends.
Megatrends?
Yep.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm gonna subscribe. Me too, right now.
Well, they gave me permission to film them. I'll put them on the video. They think I'm live streaming right now. The joke's on them because my videos are all set for 18 and over. So they liked my hat. They liked the MAHA hat. So anyway, my friends, I have my settings on my channel set for 18 and over. It's not made for minors, so none of those kids are going to be able to watch themselves in the video. So I don't know what to tell them. If YouTube weren't a bunch of jerks, I wouldn't have to do that. So it's not my fault, man. Anyways, this is a MAHA walk, Make America Healthy Again. People need to exercise, whether you're young, old. And like I always say, if you have any kind of medical conditions, you definitely want to consult your doctor before changing your routine, because I've explained this before. If you have high blood pressure and you're on medication and you're somebody maybe that's not very active, the more active you get and you lose weight and you exercise your heart more, your blood pressure will go down. So if you keep the same blood pressure medications, then you're in danger of your blood pressure going too low and you can actually pass out or have other problems. So it's very important to consult with your doctor. Now right now I'm on mile number 5. I got a really good sweat going, good cardio. I have sweat dripping out from under my hat, on my ears, and down my neck. It's only 70 degrees, it's not humid. I'm just getting a good workout. So that's the key. You have to keep a steady pace or do whatever you can handle. But make sure you talk with your doctor, okay? So anyway, with that, I'm going to thank you for walking with me today. God bless you. Say a prayer for Trump and the country. Say a prayer for yourself and your family. It's important to pray. So anyways, we'll see you on the next walk. And God bless all of you. And thank you for walking with me today. See you soon, my friends. Stay safe. Bye-bye.